On YouTube. Glad to see you again. We haven't loaded a video in 2 days. Cloud cover. When I can't even load my email hardly, I know that all it does is it actually can corrupt. If you try enough times, it actually corrupts the video. And I did that to one. I'm not doing it again. We have some interesting things here to show you. We have saws all done, ready to box up. Any of you that I told you I was shipping it out Thursday, I didn't ship your saw Thursday. We got kind of radically busy. You know how that goes. And it, I'm trying to get as many saws out as I can for all of you that would like to get them for Christmas. There's going to come a point that the last 5 days before Christmas or 6 days, I probably won't ship saws until after Christmas, okay? Because I don't want them lost in the darn mail. So I'm trying to get out what I can get out. We got that 61 build. That's a nice build. Love it. Our old timer stopped. And I wanted to show you a couple things. Look at this axe. This is iron. This isn't a steel axe. Okay, it's kind of neat because it's shaped the same on both sides, isn't it? I think that's the way it went. The old timer obviously found this. The same guy had that trap. He's got a bunch of stuff to share with us a little at a time. This axe is a fur trader's axe. As you know, the trappers and the hunters, and there were certain people, mountain men, was in this area first. It really was. We talked about the timeline on the East Coast. It goes back further than you think. This axe is probably mid to late 1600s into the 1700s some. This is what I've been told. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. That must have been something else, I never seen a profile like that before. Have you? Boy, it'd be neat to have a handle on that old sucker. I'd be afraid to use it. They're notorious for splitting right here. They really are. And iron, as we all know, as it gets old, it gets brittle. Well, you could probably go in there and weld that up or braze that or do whatever. No, don't put a handle on it. Appreciate it for what it is. This is a huge piece of history. Okay, I got a puzzle for you. What's that? Isn't this interesting? I think I know. Those of you that are blacksmiths, I'm a metal worker. I got a forge. They don't make me a blacksmith. I'll tell you that right now. I can do the work, but I watched original blacksmiths when I was young. No, it's like just because you own a chainsaw don't make you a logger. Okay, I got a forge and I got tools, but I am a metal worker. That's legit. I think this is for striking off a piece of hot metal, making it shorter. You would have a helper that would take the piece of metal out of the forge with tongs, lay it on the anvil, you'd set that down, hit it with another hammer. Makes sense, don't it? Be curious, any of you that really are smiths, tell me what that's for. But I think I got it. I really appreciate our old fart for letting us see these kind of things. This is a part of history. I mean, a colonial axe, come on. And people know they were made of iron. You can pretty much tell because steel has a nice ring to it. That's just a clank. It don't have that heavy ring that you get off a nice steel axe. Let's see if this one does. This is on the handle. It might not do it. See what I mean? We know that's steel. That's not steel. That's iron. Okay, now that we did that, I want to show you something. This is my pop's old saw. He's been gone quite a long time now. He actually died at my age. Okay, he was born with an enlarged heart. Well, he wasn't born with it. He had scarlet fever when he was a tiny little baby, and that was killing a lot of kids back in the 30s. He was born in 35. My mom was born in 31, and they didn't really have a doctor at the time. What they had was they had a one size fits all. They worked on the horses and the people both, and I understood he was pretty good. He's well known, and he done quite a bit for people. And the one thing I know is he told my grandmother, he says, your son, and talking about my dad, he says he's not gonna make. He's just a couple 3 weeks old. He was very old, and they said he's gonna die. He's not gonna make it. Just be prepared for that. And, well, geez, ain't there something you can do? And he says, well, there's something I've heard about. He says, but it might kill him, but he's going to die. Well, let's try. He said, what is it? He says, well, I'm going to give him quinine. We give that to people for malaria, quinine, right? He says, I'm going to give him a dose that'd be large enough to actually kill a horse. And that I know to be true because both my grandparents told me that, and he lived, and it got him over it. I'm sure if you Googled it, that wouldn't be a cure, at least a modern cure for scarlet fever, but it did get through. But it damaged his heart. He had a large heart, and he had lived all his life. He went to the military and everything. And in the military, they found him had a heart murmur, and Dad was a strong man. He was a farmer. He was a logger. He was a contractor. He built housing projects. He flew airplanes. I mean, he was an awful good pilot. He learned to fly in the Korean War. Not in the military itself, but when he was stationed in Japan, over there he did learn to fly. And so that was kind of neat. And, but old Doc says he had a massive heart attack out on the West Coast when he was driving a truck. He must have been about 52, something like that. 54, just guessing. And he couldn't even roll his own tarps up. Another truck driver helped him. Well, Dad drove back home. Well, I came in the door, and when Dad got home, I went to visit. And, boy, he looked bad. His stomach bloated up. He was white. He was gray. And I felt his pulse. I got medical training, And he it was real thready, about 40 beats a minute. Well, make a long story short, he had open heart surgery, and he bounced back, and he decided the best thing for him to do was take it a little easier, and so he bought a piece of property in Alaska, and 10 acres up there. He can go up there and build him a log home. And he went up there and spent summer. He never made it back. He died there in that spring, the next spring. And the doctor told me, he says, Harvey, you got to get your dad under control. He can't be a mountain man all his life. My father was a mountain man for real. He genuinely was. He just unbelievable. And he looked the part too. And but he was the kindest man you ever met. Do anything for anybody. And so, we get through these times. And I miss him. He wasn't just my dad, he's my best friend. But old Doc says, you got to get him under control. He says, it's going to kill him. Well, at the time, we had a cabin out in the woods ourselves, a hunting camp, but basically, other than we didn't hunt there much, we did just spend time up there, We spent one winter up there, snowed in. That was kind of fun. I liked that. And we didn't have modern utilities, but we made do good. We lived nice. And he's up there spending a little time and talking about going back up to Alaska the next year, and he went and bought a portable mill, and he's going to go do all this. Well, I said, Dad, Doc says you're going to die if you keep this up. You can't live this pace. Well, he says, Harvey Paul, I'm a junior. And yeah, middle name and all. He says, and he kind of teared up a little bit. My dad didn't do that often. He never did anything more than raise his voice at me. He never give me a spanking. He had the look. It would just destroy you inside. And that was all he did. No form of punishment. But he had the look. When he'd give you that look, you just knew there wasn't no coming back from that. Well, he felt pretty bad, and he says, Harvey Paul, he says, I'm not going to die in a nursing home. I don't want to. I want to die with my boots on like a man in the woods, working. And he did. That's how he died. Yes, working in the woods. He went and was getting a load of firewood, and he had this old Dodge half-ton pickup, like style. Dad's theory was if the box was this big, you might as well fill it and round it up. He got that darn truck loaded, and I went and found him. I thought he's all playing cards with some of the boys or something that was up at this property. That ain't what happened. He'd loaded that truckload of wood, and the last piece was hanging half off the tailgate. And he laid in the mud. He was frozen in the mud, spread eagled. You never seen such a satisfied look on that man's face. I walked up and I looked. He was frozen. He was in 6 inches of mud, frozen. Like I said, I was, oh, Dad, what'd you do? Anyway, this was one of his saws. I run this when I was a young chap. It's an old 45 Super. It's a steel. This saw, I will promise you, hasn't run in 35 years that I know of. And because the last time he run it, it was spitting and sputtering and acting up, and he broke this handle, and he slid this stick of wood that's in there, you can just about see. And that's how he got by for the day. You know, talk about creative. Well, my brother bought these saws over there, up there on the top is his old 41. My brother says, well, if you want that one, he said, you give me that one. Get time, make the 41 run. He says, that did run. Well, he thought this was locked up because it wouldn't roll over. Well, it was a starter cover. It was locked up. So I took it apart and I soaked it, and it took some soaking. Well, I'm going to tell you a little trick. I remember when I was 12 or 13, I couldn't start this one because it had so darn much compression. I mean, it had a bag full. I fired it today. All I did, the carburetor was froze up, nothing moved. I got that all fixed up and did what you do. I haven't put gas in it yet. I'm sure I got to put a fuel line or something. You don't know. I'll probably try it, but I poured a little gas down that carburetor and I wheeled that over. It lit right up. I'm not going to do that right now because I want this to run properly. Like I said, this saw always had a lot of compression. Well, I'll tell you what, that ain't changed one dang bit. I can pull it, but I had to grab by the handle and drop it because you can't hold that handle. So I got to try to find a 3/4 wrap handle for an old 45 or an old 56. And another reason I don't want to run it, the whole front of the muffler's blowed right out of it. Yeah, you can see the oil right there going. It run about 45 seconds on a dribble of gasoline. I was really surprised. That really amazed me. Now, you guys like a story? I've got a humdinger for you. And this is probably going to put this video right over the top, but you got it coming. You guys have been good to me. Any of you that have I get little gifts in the mail, and it means so much to me. It really does. I've got some things to show you, but I want to make sure I got the people's names straight because I have a hard time with names. Faces, I got names. No, not so much. Name's not important. You make it your own. Well, up here by Buffalo, we had a fort called Fort Erie. And I don't know the exact date, so I'm not even going to get to lying about it. And when they were fighting the French, they took over Fort Erie. And so that tells you how long ago this was. And we had control of that for a few years. Well, there was a railroad that run all the way up through that way at the time here. It was narrow gauge. I know where that railroad ran. People think where it is now. Well, our main road out here, 119. No, that ain't where it was when this happened either, but I'm going to tell you. There was a train robbery. They were sending the payroll for 1 year to Fort Erie in gold. And I'm sure some silver, but it was gold. And it's coin. And down the road a ways, I won't tell you the names of the places because it don't matter. Yeah, and there's another reason why I won't either. Yeah, you think I know where it is, and I might. Okay, these gentlemen, well, they weren't so much gentlemen as they were train robbers. They fell a tree across the tracks, and went way up, and waved a lantern, let the man know. They stopped the train, and they went ahead and proceeded to rob this train. Well, in the baggage cars where all its gold was. There were about 7 of them from what I understand. Now, I heard this from very old people, and everybody around here that's older than me knows the story, and some my age do. And so anyway, 2 or 3 of them got shot right there, and it killed or wounded them. And then they were getting away, so they just grabbed their horses and had these bags of gold over the horses, and they went hell bent for Texas. Well, and there was a little tiny community they had to pass, so they went around it and they skirted it. Well, people were already aware of something going on because they could see what was going on. They heard the explosion where they blew the baggage car door. And that would have been hairy back then, wouldn't it? And so they saddled up and they got people out really fast. Well, they killed another 2 or 3 of them right there. Well, these other fellows that was left grabbed their horses. They got away with a string of horses. Well, there's stories that, well, it went that way and they went this way and they followed the road for so long, one thing and another. Now, I know horses. When you take horses and you make them heavy, they're not going to run far. Well, they did get away. 2 of them. And it was brothers. One of them was a runt. He was a midget. And so they went and they crossed the river and they followed the road for so long. And their horses began to tire. Well, I can tell you how far that is. That's just about 2 miles. I ain't going any further than that running horses that's heavy. Anybody's got horses will tell you the same thing. They would have been smart enough to know that they better do something quick. Well, they didn't have really a big plan because their plan got friggin' kiboshed just a minute that everybody got killed. So here you got these 2 guys with a few horses, and some of them was extra heavy. And so they went. The story was they went up this creek, and they found this knoll, and it was like a grassy knoll, and they got up on there because they knew the posse couldn't see them, and they stood there on that knoll behind some trees in the tree line by this creek and watched the posse go by. There's about 30 people looking for them. And well, they missed where they crossed the creeks. What happened? So that meant that was well traveled, which it was. And now, we don't have caves around here, but we do have sandstone bluffs, rock outcrops, and they'll be 20 feet high, some of them. And then you'll get smaller ones and stuff. Well, the story is they'd found what they called a cave. Now, what that was it went back in about 20 foot, turned to the right. Now, knowing that midget was the only one that could get in there. Now, he pushed them bags of gold in there and got around the corner. And he got all of them in there. I know how many there were supposed to be. And if the stories always get so carried away through the day, people thought it was millions. I'll bet you if it was frickin' years payroll in the timeline we're talking about, if it was $2,000, $3,000, I'd be surprised. Face value. So let's just go with that. But it makes a good story. And this is what this is a story that has a truth in it. Okay, so people have spent their entire fortunes trying to find that gold over the last 150, 200 years, whatever. And some people went crazy trying to find it because they just knew they had it. Well, this story, every time I heard it, didn't change a lot. There was a few details here or there, and one thing another. Well, what happened was this midget got bit by a rattlesnake. Okay? And they decided to try to get him help because his brother loved him. Well, being small or not, they're brothers. So they went down, posse was coming back through, and they met him. Of course, you know how that worked. They said, get him some medical attention, one thing or another. Well, that didn't happen, and he died. Of course, the other brother, being the only sole member, ended up in Elmira, to prison. And one of his cellmates got out of prison. Now, this man died in prison. And one of his cellmates knew the whole story that lived here locally. And boy, he was in for about 20 years, I guess. Well, he was hell on fire. He was looking for it because he told him the story, but he wouldn't tell nobody else. Okay, now in my valley, what we know is there's no rattlesnakes across the river on the north-facing hill. It's too cold. They're all on the other hill. Okay, we know what they had to do. So they rode up this creek and up on this bluff, and they found a rock outcrop. They just had this shelf over it. Went back 20 feet and turned to the right. We know that. Now, when you go the opposite direction, where everybody thinks it is, it's just the hills get way bigger, and there's no place. I went down through there all the way down. There's no place that even remotely you could twist up to make that fit that description. There's just no place, which makes it kind of cool. So, knowing we don't have any caves, well, years ago, about 25 years ago, a good buddy of mine down, we're drinking beer because it was sociable. We only drank about a case apiece. We got shooting the bowl, and I says, there ain't no caves around here. And he says, bowl, there ain't. I found one. What do you mean? Yeah, me and my buddy, we was coon hunting. We came down off this top of this hill. We looking for a dog come down this valley. He says, and my buddy fell. He says, we was in this brush, and he says, and he fell right off this rock outcrop. He said he dropped about 6-8 feet, and he said he wasn't sure where he was, and it's all covered in with brush. He said he shined his flashlight. He said, and there's a little cave. He says, you'd have to be a small. I says, can you get in it? He goes, no, you could, but no. You'd have to be kind of a boy could. He said, went in about 20 feet, and he says, you could see where it turned to the right. Yeah, got my attention, because he gave me specific directions. Well, for a lot of years, the person that was in control of that property, he put cameras up and everything else to make sure he didn't get trespassers. He's gone now. Yeah, that's right, he's gone. I went and found the site finally. Now, what I want to do before rattlesnake season, we can make this a great story, whether you find nothing or not. In life, the best thing you can be doing is searching. It ain't finding that's important. It's following the storyline and seeing. There wouldn't be many of this description. There's a little of the description I left out deliberately because just in the event any local people watch it, no, you ain't getting it out of me. So I want to take me one of these little remote control trucks, I want to put a GoPro on it and a darn flashlight. I want to run that in there and just turn the corner and see. Now, the chances of me finding something that's like a needle in a haystack, you know that. But this makes a good story, doesn't it? And it is a true story. Other than I haven't been able to find newspaper records anywhere that go back that far. But it is what it is. I thought I'd share that one with you. Everybody loves a good lost gold thing. This is one of our local ones. There's another one. It's not gold. It's lead. I'll bring that another time. I really will. Thanks for letting me show this. I don't know if this feller actually, this old guy, this old timer watches this or not. In the event that somebody tells you about it, let them know that, hey, I got it. And I'll bring it back to you along with your, I think, blacksmith tool. That's enough for now. Till tomorrow.